What's up, witches? My name is Syzygy and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then hi, hello, nice to have you. I've been getting a lot of support and new subscribers lately, so thank you all for your support, especially if you drew fan art. That means so much to me. Now, if you're one of my new subscribers or even one of my older ones and have been following me for a while, then you might remember a certain video I did about art trades roughly about a year ago. In the particular situation that I covered in that video, I was asked by someone on Instagram to do an art trade and was led to believe that they were older and more prestigious than they actually were. I only found out that I was under a false impression of their ability when I was sent their half of the trade on the very same day that they messaged me. Long and the short of it, they wanted me to do a lot of work, a fully rendered full body with 2 layers, in exchange for a headshot that they made that wasn't even a drawing of my own character. I made the colossal mistake of simply continuing the conversation and pretending everything was fine when it really wasn't. The reason behind this being that they had over 1K followers, and this was long before I had even started YouTube. I was stupidly afraid of confronting them because, to be honest, I didn't want to be attacked, so I just acted like everything was fine and dandy. I learned a lot from that experience. In retrospect, I learned that I should always ask for examples of people's artwork. I also learned that I should be direct and honest when dealing with people, and speak up and make my feelings known if and when I'm uncomfortable. Though I still find the weirdness and insanity of it all pretty funny, I do know that it would have been best for me to have taken a different route. The experience that I'm going to be talking about today is similar and yet somehow very different. Now, this one I had actually just completely forgotten about until the other day when I was going through my DeviantArt messages. Of course this happened on DA because of course it did. This one actually happened months before the other one that I previously made a video on, which is pretty interesting, so you'll see me making some similar mistakes here that apparently I didn't learn from. I'll call them like I see them, don't worry. This conversation, I found, was not an example of me lying and pretending everything was great because I was nervous, but is instead just me being an idiot as a minor and a legal adult taking advantage of that. Yep, it's that kind of convo. Keep in mind, I'm still going to be censoring this person's username and profile pic because I don't want anyone to go out and harass them. Harassment is cruel and terrible, and I do not support that sort of behavior. Though this guy's DA has since been deactivated, I'm still going to be censoring their details just in case he has a different account somewhere under the same name or profile pic. So it was late one night in early June, and I had just posted a few character references to DeviantArt at the time. I was working on characters of mine that were from my Abaddon story. The character in question is this character named Sunday. She is no longer one of my characters anymore, but when she was created, she was 17 years old. This reference is actually an updated version of the one that I had posted before, where it says she's 19 because I changed her age later. The fact that she was 17 to begin with when I first posted her reference, that's important. Remember that. So when I posted the references, I got a favorite on my Sunday reference by someone, a watch from the same person, and then they slid into my DMs with this message. Oh, I gotta figure out a voice for this guy. Hey, I fucking love your art style. Are you possibly open for an art trade? Sure. Something to note right off the bat here, I agreed to doing the art trade before ever going to this person's DeviantArt page. I had no idea of their skill level, I just simply agreed to it before checking. Kind of a similar mistake to the one that I made in the later art trade experience. That seriously makes me so happy. I love the way you draw girls. Are you okay with NSFW suggestions?
Thank you so much, and it depends. As a minor, I'm not willing to do anything with explicit nudity, but I am open to doing suggestive and gore-related themes.
Hey, minor artists out there, do not be open to doing suggestive artwork for total strangers. Trust me, people will take advantage of that. As another thing to note here, I directly state that I am a minor under the age of 18 and therefore cannot do explicit NSFW art. Oh, I'm sorry. How old are you? In 19.
That's fine, I will be 17 on the 21st this month.
Here, this is direct establishment of both of our ages. They are 19 and I am 16 going on 17. There is confirmation that I am a minor and that this guy, who is roughly 3-ish years my senior depending on when his birth date is, should no longer ask me for NSFW work as I am legally unable to provide that. Also, he probably shouldn't be asking me for suggestive art either, but you know how it is.
That's awesome. So I guess no nudity at all, even if it's not intercourse?
You can see him press me a little bit here, continuing to ask me whether or not I will do nudity, tacking on an even if it's not intercourse to suggest, hey, could you at least do nudity? I luckily stand firm on my boundaries and reiterate, yep, I am willing to do skimpy clothing, however, just no nudity, chief. Again, bad idea to do suggestive art for strangers. Small brain stuff on my part.
Okay, well that's fine. Is it okay if I ask for one of those OCs in skimpy clothes? But I want her to be doing one other thing that I hope you don't think is too weird.
Ask away, my dude. I'll tell you if I'm comfortable with it. And which OC would you like me to do?
Okay, it's super embarrassing, but it's what I really want. Do you think you could draw that girl Sunday kinda hot and laughing or making fun of a small piece? Like, maybe have her say some humiliating things. Yeah, lol, told you it's weird.
I'm sorry, but I'm not really comfortable with that. A bit of an overstep in terms of my boundaries.
Now this is obviously the part of the conversation where my dumb self should have just blocked them and not responded. Let's break this down. So first of all, I have not seen an example of this guy's work. Red flag. Another weird layer to this is that he asked me to draw my own OC? In art trades, it's customary to ask the person you're trading with to draw your OC and vice versa, or sometimes people ask you to draw a fictional character. It is very unusual to be asked to draw your own OC. Next, there is the fact that I told this guy that suggestive art is within my comfort zone, but said that explicit material was a no-go. This guy also knows that I'm 16 years old and then has the gall to continue to ask me if I can draw fetish artwork. Now, though the piece that he wants here does not inherently contain nudity, as we already established I won't draw such things, it is a fetish artwork and therefore is inherently sexual. So he knows my age, knows my boundaries, and yet still asked me for fetish art. Great! Now, I being young and stupid at the time and not seeing a big problem with this, I just continued to talk with him instead of blocking his arse. You can tell by the timestamp that I sat on this message for like 10 whole minutes. That's okay, I'm sorry. Would you still be okay with drawing her laughing in her skimpy outfit?
Sure, that would be fine.
Thank you. I'm sorry about my weird fetish. I've just always had a small piece, and it's just kind of turned into a humiliation thing. This message, I can barely fathom to this day. I reinforce my boundaries. He apologizes for overstepping them, but then immediately decides to both continue speaking about the quote-unquote embarrassing fetish that he has that I've already said is beyond my comfort zone, and then he informs me of the state of his genitals. Bro! Now, if before was not the time to block him, then this time certainly was. So what did I do?
Alrighty, for your half of the art trade, would you be able to draw my girl Kat? Link to her old reference.
Of course, she's really cool. Do you want her to be doing anything?
Perhaps you could draw her looking kinda murderous, because she be that way. In parentheses, her eyes are purple by the way.
Okay, lol, that's a cool idea.
And that was the last message that I ever received from this dude, and whoa, what a whirlwind.
After this, I remember I went to their profile to take a look at their art, only to find that their DA was completely blank.
I, for whatever reason, decided that this was not a red flag at all and just ended up actually just, kind of drawing the piece in question. Here it is. I drew this specifically for this guy. However, when I went to message him again to tell him that I was finished, this was like a couple weeks later, I found that he had deactivated his account. So because my half of the trade was just my own character, I just posted it anyway and didn't label it as an art trade. So yeah, really weird experience. Let's unpack each and every one of my dumb mistakes in more detail now. First, again, me not knowing what this person's art looked like and therefore not knowing their skill level. For all of you artists in the audience who are looking to do art trades, always make sure that you ask for examples of the other person's art, especially if they're the one to DM you first. If you aren't quite sure what their skill level is, you should probably check and make sure of it. You never want to undersell yourself by working hard for someone who can't provide you with the worthwhile compensation, whether that compensation be monetary or the quality of the artwork that they give you in return. Remember that you always have the power to turn down any art request, commission, or art trade that you don't want to do, no matter the reason. Next, let's talk about minors doing suggestive art. In my personal opinion, if you are a minor and you like to draw suggestive or NSFW art, then I think that's completely fine and cool. It's within the boundaries of the law as far as I know. You're exploring yourself and your interests, and there is no shame in that. However, I would heavily and intensely advise against posting explicit work publicly until you are of age. People that are older than you and have bad or questionable intentions may see that work and fancy you as a target, and it can be dangerous. This is especially the case if you're advertising that sort of work to others. Like me, for example. At that point in my life, I was still pretty young and I shouldn't have been willing to draw suggestive work for this stranger that I didn't know, especially after he had already indicated to me that he wanted NSFW and had pushed my boundaries. If you're a minor, especially if you're a younger teen, I recommend that you avoid doing what I did. Don't advertise NSFW or suggestive work to strangers for requests, trades, or commissions until you are 18. It's a dangerous world out there. Case in point, this guy. At every single turn, no matter how much I reinforced my own boundaries, he tried to tilt the conversation into a more explicit direction. Notice how I directly make note that I am not comfortable with doing explicit material at the beginning of the conversation after he first asks, and then he goes on to bypass those boundaries by asking me to do fetish work. When I reiterate my own boundaries again and refuse to draw such work, he apologizes only to try and not so subtly inch the conversation back into discussion of his fetish, by mentioning it again and then giving me way too much information. And keep in mind, I was a stupid child at this point. Too dumb to really grasp what was wrong with this conversation. My being nice here was not like the previous situation where I was just being cordial to the trader because I didn't want to start a fight. No, here I just didn't see anything wrong with the interaction, and I was so willing to engage that I actually drew the whole piece before finding out that he deactivated and dipped. So my first mistake was not looking into his portfolio and ability, my second mistake was offering him suggestive art, and my third mistake was not immediately blocking him when he asked me to do something that I already had made note I was not comfortable with, all while knowing that I was a minor. I'm certainly glad that nothing happened to me from this experience, because previous to this, I was exploited by a different user when I was 14 and ended up drawing full-on explicit NSFW for a said adult. Maybe a different story for a different day, I guess. I look back on this particular dude and just sort of laugh. It's kind of a funny story, really. However, at the same time, if he was any smarter and I was either dumber or more lenient, then things definitely could have gotten farther out of hand. So yeah, minors in the audience. Tell anyone in the audience who isn't comfortable with doing NSFW art. Don't do what I did. Don't follow my example. I was really stupid as a kid. Always reinforce your boundaries, and if someone doesn't respect them, then hit that block button and move on. If they can't respect you, then they aren't worth your time. With all of that being said, I hope you enjoyed this new little dive into my art trade experiences.
At the moment, my art trades are closed because I'm working on quite a few of them for a few different people, and I'm definitely going to use the things that I learned from these experiences to help me in the future. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to rate and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and don't forget, stay magical.